Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by MMA veteran Cody Krahn. Cody, how are you?
I'm doing good, thanks.
Cody, before we start talking about your fight coming up on October 11th at World Series of Fighting 14, and we talk about your most recent fight, a victory over Mike Kent back on September 19th at PFC 6, I thought I'd throw a curveball at you and change it up a little bit to get away from the boring, same old interview questions that I'm sure you've been asked a million times. I thought I'd change it up a little bit and start by playing a little game. Well, it's not really a game. I just like to call it a game. I just call it a game for lack of a better term. But really, all it is I've made 15 comic book MMA fights. I've made a card. It's 15 fights between either superheroes or supervillains, or superheroes versus superheroes, or supervillains versus supervillains from DC and Marvel and all the other comic book universes out there. So I've made 15 MMA fights. Before we start talking about your MMA career, would you be interested in playing this game? It's 15 fights. You just have to tell me who the winner is, the method, and everything and anything in between that you feel necessary to answer the question. Would you be interested in playing this game?
Oh, I'm totally game. Let's do this.
Okay, so here are the rules. Basically, 3 5-minute rounds, normal MMA rules, the unified rules, all that good stuff, and no weapons. Like, you can't bring a machine gun into the cage, you can't bring a knife into the cage, you can't bring a sword into the cage, stuff like that. So basically, just trying to see what these comic book characters would do in an MMA situation. That's basically how the game is played, and those are the rules. So let's start the first matchup from X-Men Beast versus Lobo from Superman.
Ooh, that's already a tough one off the hop. Well, I'm definitely more of a fan of X-Men and Marvel comics, so I guess maybe I already have a bias.
Okay.
But, I think, especially in a cage, like, Beast would be able to pull some pretty cool Anthony Pettis type stuff. So, Lobo's tough. Lobo's got a chin on him, but I think even ultimately, if it was decision and Beast literally had to dance around the cage and hit him with backflip kicks or something like that, I think I'd have to give it to Beast on that one.
Okay. Next up, Killer Croc from Batman versus the Lizard from Spider-Man.
I don't know. That one I'm just gonna have to go with nature. I think a crocodile would eat a lizard any day. So.
Okay, good answer.
Hard to say on any sort of method, especially because they both have tails. So that makes jiu-jitsu, kind of a wild card as well, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I'll go with the croc.
Okay. Next up, Elektra from Daredevil versus Black Canary from Green Arrow.
I'm gonna go with Elektra on that one. The more the comic book one, she was definitely willing to kill people with her size. So I think just the fact that she's more willing to go for the armbar and break it.
Okay. Next up, Sandman from Spider-Man versus Clayface from Batman.
I'm going to pass on that one, actually. I don't know enough about Clayface to say, I guess.
Okay. Next up, Supergirl versus She-Hulk.
Oh, Supergirl. Supergirl, it's a matter of, I know you're saying, like, they're not allowed to use weapons or anything like that, but, it's Supergirl. Like, she's going to see every shot coming, and she hits just as hard, if not harder, than She-Hulk. So, I think that would be, that fight would be over in, like, 10 seconds.
Okay. Next up, Carnage from Spider-Man versus General Zod from Superman.
Carnage all day. Carnage all day. He'll literally chop him to pieces.
Okay. From Fantastic Four, Mr. Fantastic versus DC's Plastic Man.
I think that'd be a draw. Both guys would get tangled up, and I don't know how you would even score a fight like that.
Right.
Neither guy's gonna lose to jiu-jitsu, and no one's gonna get choked out in that fight.
Right. Next up.
So, yeah, draw. Majority draw.
Okay. Next up, Iron Man versus Steel from Superman.
I'll go with Iron Man. Again, I like Marvel, and
right.
No, I think Iron Man always has a suit for the job, so he would have his MMA suit. So, with extra iron in the chin or whatever. I think he takes that one TKO, second or third.
Okay. Next up, Solomon Grundy versus Juggernaut from X-Men.
I'll go with the Juggernaut. He's unstoppable. He's got the badass helmet. He was one of my favorite characters. I really like X-Men. So it would be, just on bias, I would have to say Juggernaut. But that would be no contest because he would just bull him through the cage, literally. Like, I don't know if they could make a cage that could actually hold that fight. So I'll say maybe either no contest or Juggernaut by TKO.
Okay. Next up, Bane from Batman versus Venom from Spider-Man.
That's a good matchup. I like that one. I think that'd be a pretty good war, especially if Bane can keep hitting the juice during the fight. He's not going to pass his piss test afterwards, obviously. But
right.
You know what? I gotta go with Venom. I mean, who doesn't love Venom? And I think he's got enough dynamic powers, and I think eventually he could just use a symbiote suit to overwhelm Bane and then get the TKO or the submission.
Okay. Next up, Superman versus Spawn.
I don't even. Oh man, you put me on the spot with that one. I love Spawn. But unfortunately, it's Superman. Like, unless you got a certain type of mineral, you can't beat Superman. He's just he's the most ridiculous superhero. He has all the powers.
Okay. Next up, Kingpin from Daredevil versus the Blob from X-Men.
I'm sure they fought if I were to Google that. I'll go with Blob because he's a mutant and he has superpowers and he can absorb guys that are tougher than Kingpin. I could see him probably just using the smother technique who's that Japanese or that big black sumo dude that just smothered the guy. It'd be literally the same fight.
Emmanuel Yarborough?
Yeah, from the old Pride fights. Yeah,
okay.
He just laid on the guy. Yeah, smothered him till he got.
Okay.
It would be a repeat of that.
Okay. Next up, Darkseid from Superman versus the Thing from Fantastic Four.
Again, it's about the superpower, so that makes it a little bit more even. I think I'll go with Darkseid on that one. He's stronger, better chin, and I think he could literally break Thing into pieces. Okay.
Now our co-main event, The Flash versus Nightcrawler from X-Men.
Okay, so they're both allowed to do super speed and teleportation.
Right.
I'm trying to picture that fight in my head because that actually sounds really cool. I don't know. I'm going to go that whole X-Men bias. I think if Nightcrawler can get his hands on him, then he wins. But Flash is obviously just going to dance around and try to outplay him. But Nightcrawler's not going to be in the same spot. No, I'll go with Nightcrawler. I think he has the better powers.
Okay. And our main event from Superman Doomsday versus the Hulk.
Oh, I can't go against the Hulk. That's my boy. Hulk gets stronger every time that he gets angrier. That's a good source of inspiration for me when I fight. So I think that would be that'd be fight of the century. But no, Hulk can heal, and he gets better as he gets angrier as he fights. So I would never put money against Hulk.
Oh, I see. Is there any matchup on here that I didn't name that you would like to see? Is there any two superheroes that you would be interested in seeing in an MMA fight? Is there any matchups on here? Maybe I said some of them in some of these matchups, just not against one another. Is there anyone on there that you'd like to see that I didn't name off?
Well, Thanos against maybe Darkseid. But again, if the guy can use his powers. Thanos against anybody, he's the ultimate badass.
Okay.
He's the Fedor of the comic book world as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Now, I'm just curious, who do you think would make the best MMA fighter from the comic book universe?
Deadpool, because same thing, he can heal. He has his wicked agility. Wolverine. Actually, you know what? Wolverine would probably be my number one pick. Same thing, healing factor, and the fact that his bones are impossible to break. Mm-hmm. He'd probably be the he'd probably be the most badass fighter. He would never get injured. He would never have to pull out due to injury. He'd always be good to go. He'd always be in the best shape. I'd say, yeah, I'll take my boy Wolverine.
See, I always thought Dr. Octopus would be the best MMA fighter because he has all these other limbs. He has 4 tentacles, and then he also has the 4 limbs that he has normally. So could you imagine him on the ground for submissions? He could have you in a rear naked choke and a toe hold at the same time. His clinch standing up, he could press you up against the cage, all 4 of your limbs with his tentacles, and then he'd actually have his arms and legs, his normal arms and legs he would have to use as striking. So I think he would be the best MMA fighter.
Oh, yeah. Dr. Octopus, but then same thing, like, you know, if Carnage is in this, from what I remember, Carnage has destroyed Dr. Octopus a few times. Even Zombie Spider-Man was able to eat Dr. Octopus. He's tough with the limbs, but anyone quick enough to get on the inside, I think they give Dr. Octopus a lot of problems. But no, that's same thing. Like, especially with the jiu-jitsu, like you're saying, he'd be a good matchup if he was fighting someone like Hulk or Thing, or someone that just relied on brute strength and power to try to win the fight.
Now, you have a very interesting tattoo, because from what I can see just on pictures, and I'll ask you to give us the full details, but you have Iron Man on your chest, and then I'm not sure who else you have. What kind of characters do you have on this tattoo? Okay,
so basically it's still a work in progress, but yeah, it's a collage of a graphic novel series that Marvel published. I decided I wanted my first big tattoo, I guess you could say. I was talking to my friend that was the artist, and he's like, well, what do you want? I'm like, well, I don't know, I like zombies and I like comic books. And then I found out that there was a series called Marvel Zombies, and basically, long story short, a group of these superheroes, well, all the superheroes on Earth, they turn into zombies, eat humanity, and then basically they all turn on each other. And what was left was a group called the Scourge of the Universe. That's basically what I'm working on right now. Is all the characters that I have are zombified. So there's Zombie Iron Man on my chest, Zombie Hulk on the outside of my arm, and on the inside is Zombie Wolverine. Then in the background, what we have is the skeleton of Galactus, because in the comic books, they eat Silver Surfer, gain his powers, and then kill Galactus, and then gain his powers.
I see.
I kind of have a little bit of the story going on there.
I see. Now, I'm just curious, you mentioned earlier that you're more of a Marvel fan than a DC fan. Just curious, why?
I think it was just when I happened to grow up reading. A lot of times I collected comic books by just going to garage sales, and I really got into, I guess you could say, kind of more the galactic space side of the Marvel universe. I was really pumped when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, because I really understood a lot of the references and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun to watch that movie.
I see. What's your favorite version of these characters? Is it the comic books, the TV shows, the animated series, the movies, the straight-to-DVD movies, that kind of stuff? What's your favorite version of these characters?
I'm really liking how they're doing the movies now, but honestly, I'm not entirely on the whole Marvel Phase 1, 2, and 3, what they're doing with the Avengers. That's basically the characters that they have the licenses to, so the Avengers are kind of weak in a way. I mean, the first movie was cool in the climax and stuff like that, but why was Scarlett Johansson and Hawkeye there? I mean, you got Hulk, the God of Thunder, Iron Man, and a guy who's really good with a bow and arrow. You know, like he's not really serving a purpose there, as far as I'm concerned. I really liked the way that Fox has handled the X-Men series. Days of Future Past, I thought, was probably one of the best comic book movies I've ever seen, because that was really my era, is when X-Men was really popular in the early 90s, and that's when the comic books, the toys, and the cartoon were all around the same time, and I was young enough to enjoy all of those. Yeah, I was really able to absorb a lot of, I guess you could say, nostalgia out of that series than I have anything out of the Avengers.
Yeah. X-Men the animated series and Spider-Man the animated series. I used to love watching that stuff.
Oh, I love the old 60s Spider-Man. That is the most ridiculous crap ever. How he could just suddenly weave a baseball glove out of his web to catch a cannonball. You know, like that's
yeah.
Just sheer genius.
And the theme song. How can you not love it?
Oh, how does anyone never forget that theme song. I love it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Well, comic books aside, Cody, let's transition to your fighting. Last time out, back on September 19th, you defeated Mike Kent, avenging a loss of a fight that took place back in February of 2013. You lost that fight. A lot of controversy around that one. I'll let you tell the full story, but from what I've been able to gather, back before you fought Mike Kent in 2013, it was supposed to be at middleweight for a title. It was supposed to be at 185. His manager, his coach, or maybe it was him, came back to the promoter and said, hey, I can't make 185. I got to go do a catch weight or something. Can that be worked out? And you settled on a catch weight of 195 for a 3-round fight. Fight night rolls around. You're under the impression you're fighting at 195 for a 3-round fight. The 3rd round ends. Had the fight been over at that point, you would have won a decision on the scorecards. Fight continues. He ends up getting you in the 4th round. Take me back to that time. What exactly went on that night? And also, is that where the bad blood between you and Kent started, or were there other things involved on why this most recent fight back on September 19th was sort of a grudge match?
Okay, well, I guess I'll actually kind of start backwards to answer that question.
Okay.
Back when Mike was 8-0, and this is when he was fighting out in the Maritimes. You know, he was basically the toughest guy out there, and so he was 8-0, and he kind of wanted to start making a name for himself. So the challenge was put out there. So I called him out on the internet, and then there's a bit of back and forth banter, and then MFC signed the fight to happen. So then I knew MFC wanted some hype out of this. I kind of wanted to give it a shot too. So we started a bit of a Twitter war, and we went back and forth. And I kind of made the same redundant jokes about his tattoos and stuff like that. And I found I wasn't really good at being a chill, so I didn't actually enjoy being that character, and it kind of wore out quick. Mike ended up getting injured. The fight never happened. But he always kind of guaranteed me there would be other fights. Long story short, both of us kind of took other career paths. I mean, I ended up going to a different gym afterwards, and I had won most of my fights since, and he kind of had more of an up and down career. And then yeah, it was led to us having our fight. Sorry, I totally skipped that part. But okay, let's go back to the fight. Jesus Christ, I totally screwed that up, didn't I?
It's all right.
Anyway,
it's all right.
I'm going to start that over. So, when I found out that we were going to fight at 195, I assumed, and that's on me, I assumed that we were going to, it was going to be a 3-round fight. Mm-hmm. There was a bit of miscommunication. At the time, Mike and I had the same manager, actually, which, kind of helped set up the fight. But, the way that I understood it since is that once you agree to have a certain amount of rounds in a fight in Halifax, you fight that many rounds, regardless if it's a title or not anymore. So we fast forward to fight night, and then that's basically what happened. Was I thought I was beaten up for 3 rounds, and then we got into a 4th round where I basically had no energy left, and then that was that. I ended up losing. I kind of had sour grapes over it for a bit, but then I realized that, it was still originally supposed to be a title fight. It was still supposed to be 5 rounds. Mike weathered the storm. He knew it was 5 rounds. I can't blame him for the outcome of the fight. He came to fight. He survived 3 rounds and came back to win in the 4th. So, I tip my hat to him. And like I said, from then on, we both had our different careers. I ended up winning most of my fights. He kind of went back and forth after that. And then it just so happened that we were able to set up the fight again. But I'd say by that time there wasn't really any bad blood or anything like that. We were both very civil at the weigh-ins for this fight, and I'd say we've actually become friends since.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not exactly sure where I read it, but I saw an article online that said that had you lost this fight, you would have retired. Is that true?
Yeah. No, I put that out on I guess you could say like a post-fight thank you post on Facebook. I just kind of wanted to, and that was the thing. I didn't want to make a deal out of it. I didn't want to try and make a spectacle by announcing before the fight that, if I lose again, that this is it. But it was something that I had decided on a long time ago. Where I guess you could say from the time that I took the fight that, I had felt so confident that I had won the first fight, and that, from since that fight, training at Complete Fitness from that time on had improved me as so much of a fighter that, honestly, no disrespect to Mike, but to me it felt that if I couldn't improve upon that fight, and if I couldn't finish Mike, then that was my plateau. That was as far as it was going to go. I knew I was capable of better. I guess I just wanted to put it on the line for myself, and I don't know, maybe light a fire under my own ass, or give myself a reason to really try to finish the fight.
Mm-hmm. After the fight, Mike Kent announced his retirement from MMA. So, knowing what we know now, this fight was a loser leaves town match, because you said if you lost this fight, you would retire, and he lost this fight, so he did retire. So it was a loser leaves town match, and you got the win. But Mike Kent, you said that you've become friends with him, and you're okay with him now. So how are you feeling knowing that you retired Mike Kent in a sense? You know, you're his last fight. So with him being a friend of yours, how did that feel? How does that feel now?
It was kind of an interesting moment. He was very, very humble in defeat, and to me, I kind of felt it coming in a way. He's about to have his third child right away, and I can only imagine how much of your time and energy has to go into being a family man, let alone trying to train for a fight and work a full-time job as well. It was kind of a cool moment, and I tried to stay really humble in winning too as well, because same thing. It was just kind of a cool moment that we were able to kind of close this chapter, and through everything that went on, we were finally able to kind of just put it past us. And I don't know. To me, I feel like I set the record straight. Like I said, I won't make an excuse for losing the first time, but I'll be damned if I'll lose twice to the same person.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's a very quick turnaround for you, because you have another fight coming up October 11th at World Series of Fighting 14. I'm just curious, when did you get the offer for this fight? Was it before you fought Mike Kent, or was it immediately after the Kent fight?
Darren Owen got in contact with me while I was still in my training camp for Mike. I think it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the fight with Mike. But he asked me if I wanted to fight Matt Baker, and I've always wanted to fight Matt Baker. So, I told him that let's just make sure I'm not hurt after this fight, and we just left it at that. And I told him right afterwards, hey, the only thing that hurts is my hand a little bit, and Matt Baker still wants to fight. I'm good to go. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of a lickety-split decision for me.
Mm-hmm. In the Mike Kent fight, you suffered no damage, so I'm just curious, when did you start thinking about Matt Baker? Did you take that weekend off and went back to the gym on Monday? Did you take a little bit more time off? Or did you start immediately thinking about this fight against Matt Baker? When exactly did you shift the attention from Kent to Baker?
It was. I'd say it was pretty immediate. I mean, I certainly took the weekend off to just kind of enjoy things, and it was my niece's birthday too, so it was nice to be with some family and stuff like that, and just relax over the weekend. And I enjoyed a couple little cheat meals here and there, but I was back in the gym first thing on Monday, back training.
I see. Now, you just mentioned that you've always wanted to fight Matt Baker, so I'm just curious, what's the story there?
If you find Matt Baker's first fight on YouTube, you'll notice that his opponent tries to go out and touch gloves with him. Matt Baker starts moving towards him, looks like he's going to touch gloves back, but instead decides to just give him an overhand right and knocks him out in about 5 seconds. He did that to a really good friend of mine, and I actually happened to be cage side when that happened. I was fighting that same night too, and I got very, very emotional by that. I went backstage and I exclaimed, if I ever get my hands on that guy, I'm going to knock him out.
Oh.
And here we are, a few years later.
I see. Now it's going down. This fight against Matt Baker is going to be fought at the catch weight of 195 pounds. You've got to be the catch weight king, because it seems like every fight I've ever seen you in has been at a catch weight. I'm just curious, why the catch weight for this fight against Matt Baker? And also, you mentioned that you're trying to get into a big show, you're trying to get into the UFC or Bellator. So going forward, what weight is the right weight for you to make a run in those organizations? What is the ideal weight class that you'll be competing in? Because obviously it's not going to be at a catch weight, it's going to be in a weight class. So what's the right weight class for you going forward?
Well, I did the fight at 205 with Mike because I think we both just kind of agreed that we wanted to be able to enjoy our summer and not necessarily have to stress about cutting weight. Mm-hmm. It worked out really well for me. I felt that it improved my gas tank, and I was able to just concentrate on training rather than cutting weight or anything like that, but I'm definitely not a natural 205er. I'm thinking 185 is where I belong. I know I'm taking this fight with Baker at 195, but again, a 3-week turnaround. I'm not going to spend 3 weeks trying to cut weight for a fight that's, I only have 3 weeks to prepare for. So I see my future being at 185.
Oh, I see. Now, you touched on a little bit earlier the story behind why you wanted this fight with Matt Baker, but blocking out that story and just looking at his skill as a fighter, overall, what are your thoughts about him as an opponent?
He's a tough guy. He's got heavy hands and he likes ground and pound. I think him and I actually we match up really well. I think stylistically it's a good chance it's going to be a brawl. But the one thing that I've noticed in Matt Baker's fights, and I've watched quite a few of them, is that when he fights someone tough and he fights somebody that wants to bring it, he's not very good at being the bully anymore. I found that if he's not the hammer, he's the nail. He's not really good at getting beaten up and coming back from it. As soon as he starts getting beaten up, he looks like he kind of starts to fade. Whereas I feel that I'm the kind of guy that can come back from, getting busted open, and if you don't finish me, I'm going to sure as hell try to finish you. So I think it'll be an explosive fight, but I think once he starts to see the power in my hands, he's going to start shooting for takedowns. And then once he starts getting stuffed, I think he's going to start fading a little bit. So it could be about second round, but I think I'm going to knock him out.
Mm-hmm. During your career, you've never seen the judges' scorecards. You've either finished all your opponents or been finished by your opponents when you've lost a fight. So I'm just curious, is your philosophy on fighting kill or be killed?
Yep, go out on your shields. Unfortunately, I guess I've just, in none of my losses, been able to go that far, but I prefer to go for risks. I prefer to go for the finish. I don't like the idea of trying to grind out a fight and win on points. I mean, if it's necessary, you got to take a win. But no, I guess I just prefer to always look for the finish. Always try to keep it exciting. People are paying money to watch you fight. They're not there to see point spar somebody and put them up against a cage and punch them in the ribs for 15 minutes. They want to see blood. I'm going to give them that.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm just curious, what do you think Matt Baker's camp is telling him to do against you in this fight?
I don't know, because the thing is, now that I beat Mike Kent, that's two guys this year that have beaten him in the past. So if he wants to go to the ground, cool. If he wants to keep it standing, that's extra cool. I don't know what he wants to do, but I don't know. Maybe just press forward. Maybe he wants to try to be the guy coming out aggressive. And if he does, we're just going to meet in the middle and throw fists until one of us goes down.
Mm-hmm. Last year, you fought 4 times. This fight against Matt Baker will be your 4th fight in 2014. Is that a good amount of fights in a year, 4, or would you like to maybe squeeze in another one here?
Well, it just kind of seems like over the summertime, the MMA scene kind of slows down. I mean, there's a lot more stuff to do in Edmonton. There's a lot of festivals and stuff like that, so it's kind of a hard time to sell a show. But once it starts getting cold, people are indoors and they want to see excitement. So I'm gonna try to finish off the year with hopefully maybe 1 or 2 more fights. I like to stay busy. The busier I am, the more focused I am. That's what keeps me in the gym, is always knowing that there's somebody to fight.
Well, Cody, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
I got a couple sponsors. I got Five Star Athletics. They're going to be giving me my shirts and hats for my corner guys to wear. I got my friends Bonnie and Morgan Wong. They've sponsored me as well. I got B&M Construction in Mayor Thorpe. They've just picked me up. I got to say thank you to them. And also the Carrying Tree Foundation. So I want to say thank you to them. Also, I guess I got to say, if you're coming to watch the fight, make sure you're sitting down and you got my beer by the time the death metal stops playing, because you're going to want to watch my fight.
Cody, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck October 11th at World Series of Fighting 14 against Matt Baker.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.